So I was just watching a YouTube video talking about a subject that involved time dilation. And I went and Googled time dilation to make sure that I remembered what that was, because I thought it was the compressing and stretching of time based on usually your speed relative to the speed of light, although it can involve other things as well. And I was right about that. And I wound up on Reddit reading someone's post asking people to explain to them time dilation because it just seemed so unintuitive to them. And they referenced the twin quote unquote paradox, which is an example often given to explain time dilation, which is that if you take a set of twins that are obviously the exact same age and you leave one of them on Earth for 10 years, but you take the other one and put them in a spaceship that's traveling somewhere close to the speed of light for that same 10 years, they'll get back to Earth and they'll seem to have only aged 6 years. So, say they both started at 20, one's going to seem like they're 30, the other one's going to seem like they're 26. Um, and it's just an intuitive thing, but the math proves it out. And basically, Einstein figured it out when he was doing his, I don't know if he was doing general relativity or special relativity calculations. And he basically just determined that from all frames of reference, the speed of light is the same. So basically, if you throw a baseball forward at 80 miles an hour, it's going forward at 80 miles an hour. But if you're standing on the back of a truck that's going 100 miles an hour and you throw it 80 miles an hour, then just forgetting about wind resistance and stuff, that baseball is going to be going forward from your reference point on the back of the truck. It's going to be going forward 80 miles an hour relative to you, but relative to someone standing on the side of the road that you pass right as you throw the baseball, it's going to look like it's traveling 180 miles an hour forward. Again, just factoring out wind resistance and other things like that. And that holds true. But if you're holding a flashlight, the light that comes out of the flashlight does not go forward at the speed of light plus 100 kilometers an hour, even if you're on the back of a truck going 100 kilometers an hour. It stays the same speed. So if you hold a flashlight and you are able to accelerate yourself closer and closer to the speed of light, you would see the light. Like if you were able to get close to the speed of light, which just requires an enormous amount of energy, um, you would see the light basically coming out of the flashlight more and more slowly. Like you'd be able to, if you got close enough to the speed of light, you'd be able to watch it move forward out of the flashlight, even though it moves so fast that it gets however far the sun is from Earth in 8 minutes. It gets, I think, from the moon to the Earth in like 3 seconds or something, even though it's like a massive distance. So that's like the speed limit of the universe. And so that's like, it's cool to know, and it's been proven through experiments, but it's not intuitive for people to think that two people who are the same age who should be experiencing time equally, and like going back to the twin paradox, would not age at the same rate. And the way I think about it, because all of the people explaining it were giving various examples and various math formulas of how it was true, but nobody was really getting at an intuitive, kind of easy to manage, understandable um, explanation of it that the average human mind can wrap its head around. But I, for whatever reason, tend to be good at those kind of things. I think. I mean, you guys will let me know if I'm wrong, or even if I'm right, you'll still let me know if I'm wrong, right? YouTube, fucking YouTube comment section. Um, so here's the way my head wraps around this, knowing that all of what I just explained is true as proven by experiments. Imagine it like this, because it's not just moving close to the speed of light that makes time pass more slowly for you relative to those who are not moving close to the speed of light. It's also, uh, if you're close to a source of extremely high gravity, as shown, for example, in the movie Interstellar, when the characters are on the planet that's near to a black hole and time passes. I just watched it in another YouTube video. I think it's like for every hour they spend on that planet, it's the planet with the huge ocean waves. For every hour that they spend on that planet, 7 years passes on Earth. And that's why they're super bummed that they wind up spending way more time on that planet than they had planned. Because, like, everybody they knew back on Earth is just, like, aging out of their lives. So, intuitively, think about it this way. And again, I'm really interested to know if people with a lot of knowledge in this subject have any like major contradictions to give to my intuitive view of this. Think of it this way. Think of it like two watches. Just say they're perfect watches that always uh, measure time perfectly correctly, and they're the exact same as each other. One is, just on Earth chilling. The other one's either going super fast or it's next to a black hole. Well, if you bring them back together after a while, the one on Earth will seem to have ticked far many more times than the one that's close to the black hole or going really quickly. Why is that? Well, what is happening when you're going extremely fast or you're really close to a black hole? Both of those things require a ton of energy. So think about it this way. Whatever is causing the clock to tick, the watch to tick, whatever causes a person to age, whatever causes things to just move, what we view as time passing, takes energy for that to happen, right? But if so the base reality that that watch exists within is consuming energy at a certain rate in order to tick that watch. But if the base reality that's ticking that watch is also now having to accelerate it at an extremely high speed, or is having the effects of gravitation, intense gravitation pulling on it, that is pulling from the pool of energy that reality has, that the base reality has, that it can use to tick the watch. So if you're going extremely fast, there's so much energy being pulled in the manifestation of that reality that there's not as much energy left over to tick the watch, and therefore the watch doesn't tick as often. This isn't, science in a scientific method kind of sense. Obviously, this is just me spitballing here, but it makes sense intuitively, and it makes sense being extremely close to a giant gravity well too, because there's just a shitload of energy going on there. I mean, a black hole is so powerful energetically that even light cannot escape it, right? And based on that hypothesis, presumably there are other high energy states that would also dilate time. Logically, right? Who knows if any of that's true, but it makes sense to me, and I think that anything that is measurably true that is not intuitively true just requires a shift in perspective, but eventually it can become intuitively true if we want to truly understand and grasp the nature of the reality that we're in. Reality is not actually made of paradoxes or things that don't make sense. It's all a matter of perspective, right? So it took me 10 minutes to say this. I wanted to say it really quickly, but this is just the kind of person I am. But I wanted to throw that out there because I haven't seen anybody think of it or explain it that way. And I actually had this thought, I remember, like probably 15 or 20 years ago when I was thinking about this. But it just came back to me now when I was reading this subject again. So, anyway, hopefully somebody finds that interesting. Have a good day.